Leading in Ministry is a video podcast designed to share anecdotal information that helps equip leaders in practical ways. Personal stories help drive the points home while making it both entertaining and informative.
Today's podcast is with Dr. Mike Avery. Dr. Avery is the Chancellor of God's Bible School, and I'm so glad that he's with us. Good to see you today, Dr. Avery. How's everything with you this day?
Excellent, Don. It's great to be with you.
Well, thank you for taking time. And just before we get started, tell me, I know you were president at God's Bible School. How many years did you serve there?
I was there for 22 years.
That's a long time. I know that one of the passions of your heart is raising up leaders, and what a better place to serve than right there at God's Bible School doing that very thing. So now that you are no longer there as president, what does your life look like these days?
Well, my passion for many years has been in the area of spiritual formation. Even coupling that with, training leaders. When I left GBS, I prayed that God would give me 1,000 people to impact up close. As a president, you could influence people more from a distance, but you can only impact them when you're up close. Mm-hmm. And I've prayed for that, and God is answering that. And part of that is through Deeper Life Ministries, where I travel from church to church and also do a lot of life coaching. Phone conversations. The whole point is helping people to go deeper spiritually. Tozer said it like this. He says, if you will deepen the work, God will broaden the influence. Oh, that's leadership. Awesome. And leadership is influence.
Absolutely.
And we need deep men to lead broadly.
Yes. Well, I know that you are greatly respected in a lot of circles where you travel, and I'm grateful that we can have this small amount of time today to focus on the challenges that pastors are facing. And I've listed several here that I've collected. One is pastors are weary of the pandemic, and there's a fight that's taking place in many of the churches here in regard to the post-quarantine. They're losing members and attendance. They don't know if churches can financially support ministries moving forward. Sure. Criticisms against pastors has increased significantly, and the workload has increased. All of these things. And just reading down that list, and it's not a comprehensive list, but it's emotionally exhausting when you start thinking about it. So I guess for me, it is what are some of the tools, or how would you go about dealing with all of this?
It's probably even worse than you mentioned. Just a recent conversation with a president of a state in a Southern Baptist convention. He mentioned a number of suicides of his pastors during this time. It's really bad out there, but my conviction is many of these men are not experiencing emotional, psychological, and mental burnout. Many of them are experiencing what I call soul drought. And you can go through the scriptures, you can go through history, great church leaders. This isn't new. Go back to the Old Testament and look at Elijah. Elijah fleeing Ahab, fleeing Jezebel. What did God do for him? He set him apart in the wilderness and let him rest. When David was facing one of the greatest tragedies of his life at Ziklag, when his wife and all of his men's wives and everything they owned had been stolen by the Philistines, they were ready to stone David. But what did he do? He went away from his men and encouraged himself in the Lord his God.
Yeah.
And this is exactly what Jesus did. Yeah. The man who lived the most deliberate life, but really the most busy life, it was his custom to get alone in the wilderness, spend time with God. And so, I'm suggesting to these men that they exercise an old means of grace called solitude.
Oh, yeah.
And replenish their soul.
Yes, yes. So to explore that a little bit, because I am sure that that whole area is so important in the personal life of a pastor. What is the secret for pastors to flourish in this environment that we're living?
You know, I hate to just simply say, here's the secret, because it's never that simple. It's always a little more complex, and there are pieces to the puzzle. However, at the core of it is the secret of keeping your own heart nourished, your own soul nourished. I call it grace soaked.
Oh,
And
wow.
if you don't do that, you end up trying to minister out of your own strength.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned over 30 years ago, oh, I can do it. There are many things I can do, and I can make it happen. But I'm doing it in my own strength.
Yeah.
And that will absolutely exhaust your soul and it can turn you into a pretty awful person.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so when you work out of your own strength, that's what happens. But when you work out of grace, out of strength that comes through the Holy Spirit, out of strength that comes through that place of solitude where you're not only refreshed, but you're refocused. And it's almost like you recalculate your compass. It gives you direction. It gives you perspective. You find out, you know what, this isn't my work. This is God's work.
Mm-hmm.
I can't do it in my own strength. He can do it. It helps you, reconnect with faith, realizing that God, in fact, is adding to the church. He's the one building. This isn't a personal failure or a personal success. I'm just an instrument in his hand. He's flowing through me.
Mm-hmm.
And everything about that is almost militates against our Western macho, let's get it done mindset.
Sure.
But God's kingdom is going to be built through God's strength and God's power and no other way.
Yeah, and it's very clear that there is a lot to be accomplished, and any leader is all about trying to do what he knows needs to be accomplished. Yes. And I don't know, just for me personally, listening to you this morning, there's the possibility for us to get this false sense of security because we're doing God's work. And so, wow, I mean, that's great. That's great. But it's more than just accomplishing his task. That's what I'm hearing you say.
Yes. Yes. We, in the West, we keep score. We have scoreboards, all kinds of scoreboards. You win if you're accomplishing certain things, if numbers are going up and finances going up and buildings are enlarging and you're being asked to do this and that and the other, then the pastor's winning. Yeah. If he's not, he obviously is losing. But that's not how it works in God's kingdom. There are no scoreboards. And God is not keeping score. And our goal is to be faithful, to be, it's to have something to even offer people. And you have to do that out of the overflow of your heart, not out of the combined magnetism of a dynamic personality or even our intellect. That has to come from the heart. We live from the heart. And when we do our best work, Don, when we do it out of the overflow.
Yes.
And actually, you can do it. If you do it that way, it doesn't leave you drained and exhausted and running around asking everybody, well, how did I do? Let's do an assessment here and see how we did. Okay. Mm-hmm. When you work out of the overflow, you can truly leave the consequences to God.
That's a fabulous thought. That is so good. And I think, too, that if we're not careful, our security gets wrapped up in this, perhaps in our position. Yes. or what we are accomplishing rather than our security being in who he is.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I agree.
A bit, would you?
When I left GBS as president, you do that for 22 years. That's the bulk of my life.
Yeah.
And everyone around me predicted I would go into depression, that I would feel lost. But quite frankly, I did not. I actually flourished.
Wow.
And I experienced some of the greatest joy in my life. But I really believe the key to that was my identity was not a college president.
Absolutely.
My identity was who I am in Christ, very comfortable in my own skin, happy just to be his child, doing whatever I can do for him.
Yeah.
And, you know, you don't get there overnight, but when you do get there, and you should get there, you can actually do whatever God lays in your hand to do and find great joy and satisfaction and ultimate success.
Yeah.
Maybe I should use the word fruitfulness rather than success, but you can ultimately do something that actually lasts and has eternal significance.
Wow. Well, these are some really important things that you're expressing today, because I think, you know, all the pastors that are out there and what they're facing right now, these are very challenging times.
Yes.
And you know, I just now, this other thought came into my thinking. You know, if we're not careful, we're having to outdo ourselves constantly, because we did something and now we have to, it's an upman kind of idea, because now what are we going to do the next time? And it's just that constant drain of that.
Yes.
But Mike, I grew up all of my life, and I'm very familiar with the term, the surrendered life. And I think that's at the core. And I know that even in your own ministry now, after the presidency at God's Bible School, you have a real emphasis on that. Yes. And I know it's at the core of it all. But is there more to that you could explore with me than just surrender?
Yes. You know, that in the tradition I grew up in, and anywhere that emphasizes the deeper life of any sort, they tend to sometimes focus on a quick fix. And to be honest, there is no quick fix. It doesn't work that way. What there is, there are significant post-conversion expectations. God expects us to grow. And we have to partner with the grace of God to make that happen. My Reformed friends get a little antsy that we're walking down the pathway of works. But the truth of the matter is, grace is not opposed to effort. It's opposed to earning. And we can't earn anything. I don't earn my salvation. I don't earn sanctification. I don't earn anything. But Paul said, as an athlete, as a farmer, as a soldier, I work out my own salvation with fear and trembling, for it is God who worketh in me both to do and to will his good pleasure. I partner with God's grace. And pursuing a deeper life, pursuing a surrendered and abandoned life, is really intentionally partnering with the grace of God to enhance the work of sanctification in my life. And that happens in incremental moments. It happens in pivotal moments. And there are some pivotal moments. There is language in the New Testament that is clearly something that happens. I present myself as a slave to righteousness. I surrender my body to God. Those are moments of actualization when by faith I come to a point I can do that. But there's a whole lot of work that happens incrementally. Yeah. And so do I believe in a surrendered and an abandoned life? I certainly do. But I also believe in a life that is slowly, progressively, incrementally being conformed to the image of Christ. Yeah. Learning and expanding and growing my faith through pain, through suffering, through difficulties. Quite frankly, COVID-19 has offered us one of the greatest moments, one of the greatest catalysts for sanctification, because you can't read in your New Testament, you can't look at church history without seeing suffering and difficulty as a great catalyst.
Absolutely.
To grow in his faith. And so it hadn't been all bad. There's positive things for us.
Yeah.
And And you can get through that when you really embrace what Paul said to the Romans. We know that God is busy in all things, working for our good.
Wow. Mike, I really appreciate you taking time. I loved having this conversation with you today, and I know that it's your passion and it comes through. And what good things that you shared for pastors, and I'm sure that many will find it very refreshing and beneficial. I think the synopsis for me today is simply, it's more than just us trying to do things in our own strength.
Yes.
But it's that it is that surrender, isn't it? It's not doing it in our own strength. If we're going to survive, it has to be.
That's right.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Well, I sure appreciate you taking the time. Thanks so much. And I hope you have a great rest of the day.
Thank you, Don. It's been a joy to be with you.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching. Please take a moment right now to hit share and include a comment.